Peace Bridge. I do expand upon all of these on my blog. Another area of concern for me is economic development. We've seen over the last few years how the communities that surround Calgary are becoming more attractive to businesses. They have less red tape and bureaucracy when it comes to licensing, permitting, and taxation. Many businesses are opting to move to Airdrie and Okotoks, and this should be a concern for all of us. Beyond the loss of the tax revenue for our city, we are also losing a key component of our communities. Businesses employ our neighbors and family, who then in turn support other businesses through their patronage. Businesses provide the support for local events and community endeavors. Business growth and prosperity shouldn't be a dirty word or a negative concept. We should be creating a business-friendly environment which will in turn benefit our communities. Lastly, what I feel is one of the most important issues facing Calgarians is the lack of transparency on our city council and in regards to city business. You often hear people say, we don't trust elected officials, or they're all crooked. Comments like these should be most disconcerting to our elected officials. People formulate these opinions when there is a lack of trust. Lack of trust comes from lack of information. If things are done behind closed doors and information is never shared with the public, it leads to innuendo and speculation. By doing this, no one is accountable for their actions, and they can hide from criticism. I support several methods of increasing transparency. Currently, all council and committee meetings are broadcast live on television and on the internet. While this is a good first step, they are not archived, so we can't go back and watch them at a later date. We need to create an archive of these videos. We also need to introduce a Hansard-type document that records exactly who said what and how they arrived at the decisions that affect all of us. We need to create a public record of how aldermen vote on all motions before them. We need to start publishing the expense accounts of the aldermanic offices. We need to reduce the number of in-camera sessions. The phrase in-camera is a bit of a misnomer. Many might first think, well, if it's in-camera, there's a camera there, it must be good. However, in-camera is a legal term meaning in private. There is no camera and there is no record of the meeting. We need to start publishing the contracts that the city commits us to. The value of this cannot be understated. It will demonstrate what factors are considered when tenders are accepted. It will reduce the likelihood of cost overruns. It will improve future tenders as others can see how they may compete. It will also eliminate the perception that contracts are awarded based on favoritism rather than merit. And I'm sure there are lots of other good ideas out there to create greater transparency, and I'm willing to support them fully. I feel transparency is paramount to holding our elected officials accountable. If they are doing their jobs honestly, to the best of their abilities, representing all the people fairly, they should welcome this concept. When it comes to the issues specific to Ward 4, I'm looking forward to hearing from my neighbours at the door and at meetings like this, to get a better understanding of what they feel is important to them. Throughout the campaign, I will be sharing and exploring these further on my website and on my blog. In closing, I would like to touch on the campaign itself and how you can make a difference. As I mentioned, I've run for office before, so I do have a pretty good idea of what lies ahead for me. More importantly, though, I was involved in Paul Hinman's very successful campaign in Calgary Glenmore, and I know what it takes to create a winning team. I will need an army of volunteers to help reach out to Ward 4 residents effectively. Ward 4 has over 34,000 dwellings spread over 14 communities, from Edgemont to Country Hills, from Hidden Park Ranch and Highland Park. Whether it's delivering flyers, installing signs, or door knocking with me, we need a lot of people power. Even if you can only spare an hour or two a couple of times throughout the campaign. It will be greatly appreciated and worthwhile. I encourage you to sign up. We do have a sheet at the table along the side. Additionally, there are many things we need to accomplish that simply boil down to money. Whether it's the printing of flyers, signs, advertising, or video production, they all have a cost associated with them. If you're unable to commit time to my campaign, I would ask that you consider contributing money. It is an excellent way to help me out as well. You can see either Corey or myself if you would like to make a donation. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this evening. Please stay and have a snack. I'll take a few questions, and then, as I mentioned, I'll stay afterwards as well to meet with people one-on-one. Yes?
I have a question. I'm just wondering, I see that you've got the Sport Hall and that you've long been a member of the Wild Rose Alliance and before that. But what I'm wondering is, are you trying to bring party politics into civic politics? Because I haven't really seen, I just haven't seen the good that that's done for anybody in Alberta. I see people voting according to party lines. I don't see those people doing anything for us. No offense, I'm sorry. It's a hard road.
Don't worry, that's taken. And it's a very valid question. And no, I'm not trying to bring party politics to the municipal level at all. But I'm not hiding from my past either. Other people have said that. Well, you mentioned that you were an executive director. Well, yes, I was. That's a fact. I was in that position for a year. So, I could have gone two ways on it. I could have not mentioned it at all, and then, well, people would be saying, yeah, but she's just a wild roser. So, and the other thing, too, with parties, the problem with parties, really, is that people get pigeonholed. And no one fits identically into every party that's out there.
But how much of the Wild Rose Alliance platform do you plan to incorporate into your term as alderman elected?
Well, actually, the Wild Rose platform is mostly provincial jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So there isn't necessarily anything in there that I would. But my overall personality, I guess you might say, as Paul mentioned, I'm a fiscal conservative. If you want to label people, I'm a social liberal.
So since you've run before, and I'm just wondering, is this just going to be a stepping stone to something else, or do you really plan to be in this for the long haul, or are you just here as a pit stop along the road to provincial politics and federal?
It's my desire to serve the people and to give back to the community that's given to me. And if they're willing to give me the opportunity to do that as an alderman, I'm willing to do it as well.
Thank you.
Jane, unfortunately, I'm not going to have the opportunity to vote for you, but I have a question. A lot of our parks in the area, particularly where I live in Coventry, but as I drive in this area too, have become a little bit of a dandelion wasteland. Part of the reason is the city doesn't believe in using herbicides and stuff like that. Certainly there's an environmental consequence. But what's your position on beautifying our parks and making Calgary a nice place to live?
Well, I agree with you. It is a huge concern, and I can give a perfect example of that. Right down the street, we live right by James Fowler School, and the entire schoolyard is a field of dandelions. And I'll go out on a limb here. I'm not a huge supporter of total bans on pesticides. I do believe that there is a time and a proper use for some of it. I believe just recently they've come out with a whole list of noxious weeds that we're all responsible to get rid of, including some very common flowers that we used to be able to purchase at Golden Acres. So there's an expectation for us to eradicate these things and to keep our own lawns healthy and growing properly through maybe fertilizing more and encouraging healthy growth. Yet the city doesn't seem to think the same applies to them. So I think there needs to be a bit of an eye-opening there. All right, well, if there's no other questions, thank you again for coming. Have a snack and grab a drink. There's some on ice in the bin there, and I'll be around to answer any questions directly with you.